Owner Jeanie Buss was singing Westbrook's praises to The Athletic. Quote, "All I can say is that from my point of view, Westbrook was our best player last year. He played pretty much every single game, showed up, worked hard. You know, I would have loved to have seen what this team would have looked like if they stayed healthy." Buss later clarifying, "The word I should have used was consistent. He's played 78 games last season." Stephen A. Are you buying Jeanie Buss's comments on Russ?
Well, I appreciate the correction because the correction was more accurate than her initial blasphemous statement. He clearly was not the best player for the Los Angeles Lakers last year. That would happen to be LeBron James, one of the greatest players who ever lived, who averaged 30 at the age of 37. So let's put that in its proper context and understand that Russell Westbrook was not in that stratosphere. What Russell Westbrook needs to understand is that the reason why everybody's been so hard on his play is because Russell Westbrook has established a level of greatness. Certainly, he doesn't need to turn the ball over as much. Certainly, he always had trouble shooting his perimeter shots, but it really appeared to nosedive. And last year, watching him was the first time, Doggy, you looked at him and you felt like something was in his head. Like, I mean, I saw him pull up and hit the side of a backboard. I saw him in a layup line try to throw an alley-oop to himself and throw the ball over the backboard in warm-ups. That's psychological. We're talking about a Hall of Fame player here. That's something like that. You got a bunch of stuff on your mind. And even though he's strong-willed and stubborn and what have you, I think you saw him internally wilt beneath that pressure, that shrapnel of pressure that was thrown on him from being a Laker, from having his family in the stands, from hearing people criticize him or whatever the case may be. I think he'll be much better this year. Make no mistake about it. I think Russell Westbrook will resurrect himself, and I think we all need to pay attention to that. But I also think what I love about what happened to him last year, he learned this ain't Oklahoma City. This ain't Houston. This ain't Washington, D.C. This is the Lakers. And when he said that he had no expectations, arguing with one of my boys, Brad, that works for the Los Angeles Times, arguing about him about how there was this he came with no expectations. That might be the most ridiculous statement Russell Westbrook ever made in his career. Anybody wearing a Laker uniform has expectations, which brings me to my point about Russell Westbrook as it pertains to what Jeanie Buss has had to say. He never cheats the game with his effort. He always shows up when healthy. He earns his money. We got nothing to say in regards to that. But I'm not of the mindset that the combination of him and Patrick Beverley can coexist because neither of them are shooters. Patrick Beverley is a primary defender, and Patrick Beverley is a Hall of Fame agitator. This dude walks into a locker room, and there's a standard and a culture that he's trying to infuse. And he will irritate his teammates just as much as he'll irritate the opposition. When you combine that with the fact that him and Russell Westbrook hasn't pretty much liked each other over the last years. Patrick Beverley was one of the people that was screaming on the basketball court last year when he was in Minnesota and Russell Westbrook was playing against him. Patrick Beverley was one of the people screaming, he with us, every time he touched the ball. Let him shoot, he with us. You see what I'm saying? Russell Westbrook ain't the type of dude that's just going to forget stuff like that. I don't think stuff like that's going to happen. So I think that they cannot coexist, and it will have to go. It will have to change.
It's a pep talk by Jeanie Buss, and I understand why she's doing it. Stevie's right. It's a 78-game thing. You have to admire him for going out there and participating in 78 games with a lost season. And one thing about Westbrook, he's so much better when everything revolves around him. He had the triple-double year with Oklahoma City. He won 44, 45 games. When he's got to blend in and maneuver with other great players and find a role, that's where he really struggles. And so the Lakers, this is not the right team for him. And so I understand what Buss is saying. They brought in Ham because he's not, and Westbrook shows up at the press conference, and they're trying to do a little kumbaya with him. Buss is trying to get him off to a good start once training camp begins because he does take a lot of abuse. You can't knock LeBron, and outside of Anthony Davis always getting hurt, the guy that you kill Westbrook.
It could be a pep talk, or maybe Jeanie just really wants to trade him, so she's giving him some praise to help raise his trade stock since the media has been endlessly bashing him ever since the season ended? What I will say is this: Westbrook at no point was the best player on the team. If you want to say most consistent, performance-wise, he wasn't even the most consistent. He had one good game and then a bunch of bad ones. He was all over the place. But if you're just talking about games played and nothing else, just games played, then sure, I guess we can give it to him because he played more than LeBron and AD. Unlike Kyrie and Ben Simmons, Westbrook will show up to work. That's his positive. But he needs to reshape his game if the Lakers are going to have any success next season. He has to be able to at least make free throws or a couple jump shots here and there. He has to be aggressive, attack the rim. He has to try on defense, specifically off ball. He falls asleep on some of the best shooters in the league and just lets them shoot open shots. Or he'll let RJ Barrett cut to the basket for an easy 2. There's not one NBA player that can get away with making these mistakes. And Westbrook is a former MVP, 9-time All-Star, and he's letting guys just get to the layup line. Russ was upset when they benched him in the fourth quarter. But if you're just going to let guys get layups in the fourth quarter of a close game, you're going to be benched. It doesn't matter if it's Frank Vogel, Darvin Ham, Jason Kidd. Pat Bev and Darvin Ham will hold him accountable a little bit more for these mistakes, but either way, it's up to Russ to make these changes, and if he doesn't, he will end up on the bench. And at some point, they will just send him home. You can't keep playing a guy that hurts the team more than he helps him. And with Russ's awful defense and his combination of lack of shooting and turnovers is making him hurt the Lakers right now. But let me know in the comments what you guys think of Jeanie Buss's comments. And leave a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more NBA content just like this. And I will see you in the next upload.